Okay, so our journey officially begins back in the good old days of 2000. Okay, so our journey officially begins back in the good old days of 2003 when Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie officially met on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where they play a married set of spies. Now, at the time of filming this movie, you guys, Brad Pitt was still married to Jennifer Aniston, and Angelina Jolie had just recently separated from Billy Bob Thornton. However, at the time, there were rumors that Brad and Angelina were participating in some, let's just say, extracurricular activities while they were filming this movie. Later on in their relationship, Angelina Jolie actually commented on their time on set while speaking to Vogue saying, quote, "I didn't know much about exactly where Brad was in his personal life, but it was clear he was with his best friend, someone he loves and respects." You guys know we live, laugh, love Jennifer Aniston here in the House of Hill. So I will forever side-eye Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie for what they did to her, because our next stop, you guys, is January of 2005, when Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston officially announced their separation after a lot of tabloid speculation. At the time, Brad and Jennifer Aniston released a joint statement that said, quote, "We would like to announce that after 7 years together, we have decided to formally separate. For those who follow these sort of things, we would like to explain that our separation is not the result of any of the speculation reported by the tabloid media. This decision is the result of much thoughtful consideration." And as far as Brad and Jen are concerned, they actually ended up finalizing their divorce in October of that year. But before they finalized their divorce in October, you guys, in summer of 2005, Mr. Pitt seemingly confirmed what the rumor mill had been churning about when he accompanied Angelina Jolie to Ethiopia to adopt their daughter, Sahara. At the time, you guys, Angelina Jolie's name was the only one on the adoption papers. Also at the time, a close family friend spoke to People magazine saying that her son Maddox and her were happy to have a new addition to their family. However, you guys, Brad and Angelina's relationship did not stay under wraps for very long, because in January of 2006, news broke that a judge legally changed Angelina's children's last names to Jolie Pitt. Now, at this time, they did only have Maddox and Zahara, but it was a big deal that Angelina Jolie had her children's last names changed. In fact, one of their family friends spoke about this to People magazine at the time, saying, quote, "It's the idea that you love one another and you want to create a family together. What's beautiful is you can do it by birth or by adoption." And that family friend was kind of laying the groundwork for some more tea that was going to come shortly after the name change, because shortly after that, you guys, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie confirmed that she was in fact expecting their first biological child together. Then that brings us to our next stop later that year in May of 2006. Shiloh made her appearance into the world. She was born at a hospital in Nambia, and shortly after Shiloh was born, you guys, Brad was asked about when he would marry Angelina Jolie during an interview with Esquire at the time, which proves we've been nosy about celebrity engagements since the dawn of time. But anyway, you guys, at the time, Brad dodged the question by kind of making a political statement, to be honest with you. He said, quote, "Angie and I will consider tying the knot when everyone else in the country who wants to be married is legally able." He also commented on having both biological and adopted children, saying, quote, "They're as much of my blood as any natural born, and I'm theirs. That's all I can say about it. I can't live without them. So anyone considering adoption, that's my vote." Then, you guys, after years of speculation and having children together, finally later that year in December of 2006, Brad and Angelina finally made their red carpet couple debut for Angelina's film The Good Shepherd. Okay, our next stop is January of 2007, when Angelina Jolie finally spilled some tea about her and Brad's relationship and how it got started. While speaking to Vogue at the time, she said, quote, "It took until really the end of shooting Mr. and Mrs. Smith for us, I think, to realize that it might mean something more than we'd earlier allowed ourselves to believe. And both knowing that the reality of that was a big thing, something that was going to take a lot of serious consideration." Yeah, because Brad Pitt was still married. Anyway, you guys, she went on to say that her and Brad tried to take things slow, but that it was her son Maddox who helped push them along. She said one day out of the blue, he called Brad dad. She said the moment it happened, the three of them were playing cards in a hotel room. Her and Brad didn't say anything. They just looked at each other. And Angelina went on to say, quote, "That was probably the most defining moment when he decided that we would all be a family." Now, that brings us to our next stop in March of 2007, when Angelina traveled and adopted their son Pax from Vietnam. Now, at the time, there was some speculation that maybe something was going on with Brad and Angelina, because once again, Angelina's was the only only name on the adoption paperwork, but that was reportedly just to keep the adoption super simple because in February of 2008, Pax's last name was again changed to Jolie Pitt. And Angelina was super busy that month, you guys, because also later that month is when Angelina debuted a little baby bump at the Spirit Awards. And on top of that, if changing her child's name and showing off her baby bump wasn't enough, also at this time in 2008, you guys, is when Brad and Angelina signed their name on the Chateau Winery in France. I doubt they knew that this winery would eventually become the root of so many issues, but I'm not gonna jump ahead on our walk. I'm gonna keep going down memory lane because later that year, you guys, in July of 2008, that's when Brad and Angelina welcomed their twins, Vivian and Knox. At the time, Angelina Jolie spoke to People magazine about the twins' birth, saying, quote, "It is chaos, but we're managing it and having a wonderful time. Shiloh and Z pick out the twins' clothes and help change and hold them. It's sweet. They are little mommies." The days when celebrities would just confirm things easily themselves. Oh, I miss it. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and leap forward to April of 2012 when Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie finally confirm they're engaged. This comes after Brad told CNN earlier that year that his kids were actually the ones who were pressuring him to propose to Angelina. So at the time of their engagement, you guys, their rep released a statement saying, quote, "It is a promise for the future and their kids are very happy. There is no date set at this time." It's also worth noting that Brad popped the question with a 10-carat diamond ring that cost around $1 million at the time. So although Angelina waited for the ring, it was definitely worth the wait. Then you guys, 2 years later, due to busy schedules, also Angelina Jolie during that time had a double mastectomy to prevent cancer. But finally in August of 2014, Brad and Angelina said I do. They got married after almost a decade together at a private ceremony in France. Now, after these two finally made things official is sadly where they kind of start to torpedo a little bit. First of all, they filmed a movie while they were on their honeymoon. It was an independent film that Angelina wrote called By the Sea. They walked the carpet together for that independent film in November of 2015. And then you guys, almost a year later, boom, we're at September of 2016 and Angelina Jolie files for divorce. As for the reason for divorce, she cited irreconcilable differences and she requested physical custody of their 6 children and visitation for Brad. At the time that Angelina filed, her attorney spoke out and said that Angelina was doing this for the health of her family. And then Brad released his own statement that said, quote, "I'm very saddened by this, but what matters most now is the well-being of our kids. I kindly ask the press to give them the space they deserve during this challenging time." And then y'all, unlike Brad and Jennifer Aniston's divorce that was wrapped up quickly, Brad and Angelina's divorce has dragged on. In April of 2019, almost 3 years later, their divorce was still not finalized. However, a judge did go ahead and do them a solid and declare them legally single. And they're still negotiating their finances and custody of their 2 minor children. That is so beyond crazy to me, but that brings us to our next stop, which is September of 2021, when Angelina Jolie for the first time broke her silence on her split from Brad, and she definitely gives some hints that some major drama went down. While speaking to The Guardian, Angelina said, quote, "It took a lot for me to be in a position where I felt I had to separate from the father of my children. There's a lot I can't say." There was a lot she couldn't say at the time, but we know she eventually did say it. I don't want to jump ahead though. That then brings us to October of 2021, you guys, because this is when Angelina Jolie sold her stake in their winery in the chateau, and this is when all legal hell broke loose. Brad Pitt filed a lawsuit against Angelina Jolie in February of 2022, claiming that Angelina violated Brad's contractual rights when she sold her shares in secret. He also claimed that she was trying to inflict harm and hurt his reputation. He said Angelina didn't contribute to the winery's success, and then Angelina came back at Brad by making a very big secret about him public. In August of 2022, you guys, is when FBI documents went public that detailed an incident that went down with a Jane Doe, aka Angelina Jolie, on a plane in September of 2016, aka, remember, that's when Angelina Jolie filed for divorce. According to these documents, you guys, Brad allegedly grabbed and shook Angelina on the plane. He allegedly poured beer on her. Also, according to these documents, documents. Allegedly, one of the kids called Brad a prick. He reportedly appeared as though he might attack. Again, this is all allegedly. This is just what was in the court documents. Angelina claims that Brad's behavior mimicked that of a monster and that the kids were shell-shocked. They reportedly felt like hostages on the plane afterwards. Now, I do want to note that the LA Department of Child and Family Services investigated this incident. So did the FBI, and closed the investigation with no charges filed. Also, Brad denies that any abuse happened. So do with that information what you will. Anyway, you guys, after the news of this 2016 plane incident went public in 2022, a source told People magazine that Brad and Angelina have had those documents for 6 years, and that Angelina likely meant to, quote, revive an issue that was painful for everybody and was resolved 6 years ago. They investigated it, they prepared materials, reviewed it together, and decided not to charge him. This insider claimed that this was one of Angelina's tactics to inflict more pain on Brad because bringing this up, quote, is harmful to the children and the entire family. Now, as we all know, the lawsuit in regards to the winery is still ongoing. They've been going back and forth in the courtroom and in public. For example, in June of last year, in 2023, someone from Angelina's camp seemingly spoke out to multiple outlets, you guys, saying that Brad only sued Angelina after she refused to sign an NDA over the 2016 incident. The reason why I say this person appears to be from Angelina's team is because part of the statement said, quote, Mr. Pitt saying that he is suing his ex-wife to protect his family is hard to understand because he's well aware the children have not felt able to return to the house in France for almost 7 years now due to the events that led to Miss Jolie filing for divorce. Now, speaking of the kids, you guys, that brings us to present day in 2024. We know there's been a lot of chatter about Brad and Angelina's children. First, his daughter Zahara introduced herself without using the last name Pitt at her sorority initiation. We know their daughter Vivian dropped the last name Pitt in the playbill for her and Angelina Jolie's Broadway show. And then, you guys, their biological daughter Shiloh has been making headlines when she reportedly hired her own attorney after turning 18 to legally change her name to just Jolie and legally drop the Pitt. And also, multiple sources have said just because Brad's kids are doing this, he's not giving up on them, and he hopes to repair their relationship when they're allegedly not under such a heavy influence of Angelina. Whew. Overall, you guys, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie really have a messy memory lane, okay? I think Brad and Angelina started off their relationship controversial, and honestly, it's kind of crazy how in everyone's face they were with their controversial relationship. I think after that, they did try to then be this like it couple. They tried to be super philanthropic. They were growing their family. In my opinion, they were very much trying to give, look at how good of people we are energy. Look at all of this that we do for others. Look at how modern we are as a couple. Look at our large family. I just feel like they were really trying to overcome how they started. But now, how far they have fallen, because now I feel like Brad and Angelina are just two toxic people who cannot stand one another. And to be honest with you guys, when it comes to Brad and Angelina, after this walk down memory lane, I'm not team Brad or team Angelina. I'm team kids. I just want the kids to be happy and okay. And honestly, at this point, I just need to hear y'all's thoughts on the situation. So let me know all your thoughts and feels about this little walk down memory lane when it comes to Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's relationship. You guys, while you're at it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and don't forget that notification bell. For more content, make sure you guys are following me over on Instagram and TikTok. And of course, don't forget to keep coming back here to check out my YouTube shorts. If you guys want to show me a little extra love, or you just want to make sure I see your comment, don't forget you can also hit that super thanks button down below. Also, you guys, I want to remind you about my channel membership. If you would like access to more exclusive content and lives and our House of Hill group chat, that is how you get it. You guys know you can also check out all of my merch over at my merch store at houseofhill.com. And on that note, you guys, I'll see y'all next time. Bye!